There are no gyms, Elite Four or champions of Pokemon Colosseum, and therefore we will never know if Wes can beat every champion of every region. Or will we? Let's see if Wes can beat every champion to become the champion of champions. Blue is our first opponent, and this is his team. Nothing incredible, but something we should be able to manage. Blue sends in Pidgeot, who hits Ampharos with an Aerial Ace, doing next to nothing before we obliterate it with a Thunder Punch. Rhydon is sent in next, and we're clearly at a disadvantage here, so we switch into Quagsire, who gets their speed lowered by a Scary Face. An Earthquake then hits Quagsire down to just above half before we wash Rhydon down to 0 HP with a Surf. Exeggutor comes in and we switch over into Umbreon, who gets hit by a Giga Drain, but Umbreon brushes it off and then hits Exeggutor on the following turn with a Toxic. The Walking Tree then hits back with his own status move and puts Umbreon to sleep. Umbreon then gets hit by an Egg Bomb whilst he catches up on some Z's and then smacks the Walking Tree with a Feint Attack. A crit Giga Drain then gets Exeggutor back up to nearly half before the Poison brings it back down to a quarter. One more Feint Attack and that takes the Psychic Tree down. Alakazam comes in and Umbreon is feeling frail, so we switch into Tyranitar. Alakazam then sets up a Reflect, but we manage to get off some damage thanks to the Sandstream. Alakazam is clearly feeling nervous as it uses Recover, but its HP doesn't stay full for long as it gets hit by a Crunch, taking it down, because in Gen 3 Dark type moves are special. Blue's Ace Blastoise is in next and we switch into Ampharos as Blastoise makes it rain. Ampharos takes a Hydro Pump and counters back with a crit Thunder Punch, zapping the Water type Turtle into an early grave. Blue's final Pokemon is Arcanine, and we swap into Tyranitar and tank a pathetic Extreme Speed and a Flamethrower before hitting back with an Earthquake, barely not taking it out. But the Sandstream blows Arcanine away, winning us the first out of the 12 champion fights. Lance's team is less dragon than you'd think, with just 3 Dragonites. And I'm not here to crush his dreams, just his morals. Gyarados, which is definitely a dragon, is in first and hits Ampharos with a Waterfall, but Ampharos smirks and smacks it back with a crit Thunderbolt, destroying Lance's first Pokemon. Dragonite comes in and hits Ampharos down with an Outrage. Feraligatr comes in to avenge Ampharos and hits an Ice Punch, barely not taking the dragon down. But we do get a freeze, before Dragonite heals up with a Citrus Berry, and then a final Ice Punch takes the Dragonite down. Another Dragonite comes in and we hit an Ice Punch down to the red before Dragonite paralyzes Feraligatr with a Thunder Wave. Lance cheats and uses a full restore, but Feraligatr doesn't care for his shenanigans and another Ice Punch leaves Dragonite in the red. On the following turn, a Thunder hits Feraligatr hard, but one more Ice Punch and that is all of Lance's dragons. Oh come on, another Dragonite? Fine. Dragonite's Dragon Rush misses and an Ice Punch leaves Dragonite low. Lance, being a poor sport as usual, uses another full restore. Unfortunately, Feraligatr gets fully paralysed and can't hit that turn, meaning Dragonite can take our Waterigator down with the Dragon Rush. Piloswine comes in and avoids 2 Dragon Rushes, which means it can take down Lance's final Dragon type with a double Ice Fang. Charizard uses Fire Fang on Piloswine, which he tanks, but he does also get burnt. My Woolly Pig then crits a Rock Slide, taking the Kanto Firestarter down in one hit. Aerodactyl takes Piloswine down, but not before he can get off an Ice Fang. Typhlosion comes in and gets smacked down to 60 HP, but counters back with a powerful Thunder Punch, winning us the second match of the Champion Gauntlet. Steven Stone is a user of a variety of types, but nothing Wes can't handle. He sends in Skarmory and sets up spikes as we use Rain Dance. Skarmory can't see clearly through the rain and misses a Steel Wing, which means we can hit a guaranteed Thunder, taking down the Metal Bird in one hit. Aggron comes in, and as threatening as the big Titan is, he also goes down to a single Thunder. Steven Stone then sends in his Ace, and this is an absolute unit. It hits an Earthquake, but Ampharos tanks it and strikes back with a Thunder, barely not taking out the Mecha Monster. A Citrus Berry then brings Metagross back up to half. One more Earthquake takes down the Woodless Sheep, which means I bring in Umbreon, who gets hit by a Meteor Mash before hitting back with a crit Feint Attack, leaving Metagross in the red. Steven then uses a full restore to bring Metagross back up to full health. We then hit a Shadow Ball and a few more Feint Attacks before going down to a final Meteor Mash. Quagsire then comes in and survives a Hyper Beam on 42 HP before shaking Metagross off the field with an Earthquake. A Giga Drain from Credilli finishes Quagsire off before it can even get a hit off. Heracross is sick of the disrespect though, and one-shots Credilli with a Mega Horn, which then brings in Armaldo. Heracross hits 2 Brick Breaks, taking down the fossilized Bug, but does get hit low by an Aerial Ace. And Steven's last Pokemon is a Claydol and can't survive a single hit from Heracross and goes down to a Mega Horn, winning us the third battle. Wallace has a full team of various water types, so we start the battle by sending in Umbreon to hit a Toxic on Wailord as it sets up a Rain Dance. We switch into Ampharos on a double edge, which Ampharos takes respectively well. I forgot to teach Ampharos Thunder, so for extra precaution we set up a light screen before Wailord can hit a water spell. But after hitting a Thunder Punch, Wailord ends up sleeping with the fishes. Because, you know, they live in the sea. Gyarados then strikes Ampharos down with an Earthquake, which means we have to bring in Tropius, and she takes a Surf well on the following turn, which only done 9 HP of damage. Tropius then sets up the Sun with a Sunny Day, which does 3 things: increases Tropius' speed, reduces the damage of water type moves, and allows us to hit a Solar Beam in 1 turn. A Solar Beam then brings Gyarados down to under half. A weak Surf refreshes Tropius, which means she can take out Gyarados with 1 last Solar Beam. Milotic is in next and gets blasted down to a quarter by a Solar Beam and sends a chilling blast down Tropius' spine with an Ice Beam. Its Citrus Berry then brings it out of healing range, and with 1 more Solar Beam, Milotic goes down. The Sun fades as Tentacruel comes in, which means it can outspeed and clip Tropius' wing with an Ice Beam. Quagsire comes in and makes the most of the water absorb ability by not getting damaged by a Hydro Pump and swiftly rids of the toxic jellyfish with an Earthquake. Ludicolo sets up Leech Seed and double teams whilst Quagsire does weak damage, so we switch into Umbreon. Umbreon tanks a Giga Drain and Surf with ease and misses a few Toxics on the next 2 turns. Umbreon finally hits a Toxic as Ludicolo uses double team again. Umbreon hits 2 faint attacks before going down to the Leech Seed. Meganium is able to hit a Giga Drain, take a Surf, and then Ludicolo goes down to Toxic at the end of the turn. Wishcash shakes in its, fins, I guess, as Meganium hits a Giga Drain, winning us the last of the GBA champion fights. Now let's head over to the Sinnoh region, where Cynthia has a frightening team, but we can handle it, I hope. Spiritomb doesn't have any weaknesses in Gen 4. I mean, it could have played BDSP, but what are you going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is use Fortress to set up a layer of spikes and toxic spikes until Spiritomb takes Fortress down with a few Dark Pulses. Oh, never mind. We survive on 4 HP and hit a Mirror Shot before going down on the next turn. Umbreon comes in and after 2 faint attacks, the Spooky Rock goes down. Lucario trips over the stones that Fortress had set up when he enters the ring, and with an obvious type disadvantage here, we switch into Espeon on an Aura Sphere, which he eats better than I eat a box of Jaffa Cakes. Espeon clears its mind of all the thoughts and gets shook down to the yellow with an Earthquake, but Espeon knows that mental strength is more powerful than physical and one-shots Lucario with a Psychic. Cynthia's ace Garchomp barely survives a Psychic in the red before a Citrus Berry brings her back up to a quarter. But with Garchomp still kicking, she hits back with an Earthquake, taking Espeon down. I send in Typhlosion next, and despite it being weak to ground moves, its speed is massive, and we have a secret weapon up our sleeve in Hidden Power Ice, which we are able to use to take down the Landshark without Typhlosion even breaking a sweat. Milotic is in next, and Typhlosion is feeling on top of the world and hits a Thunder Punch, one-shot into Eloquent Water Serpent. Togekiss is in next and tanks a few Thunder Punches and Hidden Powers before taking down Typhlosion with a handful of Water Pulses and Aura Spheres. And as Togekiss isn't a Fairy type in this gen, we're able to use Flygon's Dragon Claw to secure us the win, and now onto Unova. Alder has some really cool bug Pokemon on his team, including his ace Volcarona. But first up on his roster is Excelgor, who manages to hit a crit Bug Buzz, leaving my Ampharos low. She tries to get her revenge with a Fire Punch but barely doesn't take it out. He uses a full restore, but we reset the round by hitting another Fire Punch, taking it back down to the yellow. With Ampharos low, we switch into Fortress on a Bug Buzz. Fortress then sets up Toxic Spikes as Excelgor tries to use me first, but fails. We rinse and repeat as we replicate the same move on the following turn. Fortress then gets smacked down to the red with a Focus Blast before we manage to set up a layer of spikes. Fortress then goes down to a Bug Buzz. Feraligatr comes in to finish the job, but Excelgor goes for me first and hits Feraligatr with a taste of its own medicine, but luckily does next to nothing before Excelgor goes down in a watery grave. Excavalier comes in and gets hit to around half by an Earthquake and retaliates with an Aerial Ace. Another Earthquake surprisingly leaves Excavalier in the red and decimates Feraligatr with an absolutely unnecessary Giga Impact. Despite Ampharos being low on health, she still is able to take Excavalier down with a Fire Punch. Bouffalant comes stampeding in on next and gets its little hooves hurt by the spikes and toxic spikes I laid earlier. A Thunder then leaves the Fluffy Buffalo in the red and strikes my Wooloo Sheep down with a Stone Edge. Then Espeon is able to finish off the Buffalo with a Psychic. My favourite Fiery Moth takes the stage and faces the same repercussions as the Buffalo. Espeon manages to get up a Light Screen and Reflect as Volcarona boosts its stats with a couple of Quiver Dances. Volcarona hits Espeon down to the red with a Bug Buzz, and Espeon counters back with a Psychic, not doing much due to the Quiver Dances. Volcarona then goes for a Hyper Beam and misses. Ha! That's what you get for using an unnecessary overpowered move when they're not needed. A Shadow Ball leaves it low and the poison damage from the Toxic Spikes finishes off Alder's ace. Druddigon comes in and faces the wrath of Espeon's Psychic but survives in the yellow and finishes off Espeon with a payback. But a final Dragon Claw finishes off Alder's last Pokemon, but we're not done with dragons as our next opponent is Iris, who can be a real challenge if not approached correctly. Hydreigon comes in first and hits Hariyama with 2 Dragon Pulses, but then goes down to 2 Ice Punches. An Ice Punch then leaves Iris's next Pokemon Druddigon on below a quarter, but this outrages Druddigon. And down goes my Sumo Pokemon. Metagross finishes off Druddigon with a priority Bullet Punch, which then brings in Aragorn, which goes down swiftly thanks to a quad effective Hammer Arm. Haxorus takes the field and I swap into Feraligatr, who doesn't survive long as it goes down to an Earthquake and an Outrage. Ampharos tries to avenge her fallen comrade and manages to get Haxorus low with 2 Thunders and paralyze it, but it goes down to an Outrage as well. Metagross comes in and uses Meteor Mash, but before it can hit, Iris uses a full restore. The Meteor Mash does get Haxorus back down to the yellow, but misses its next one and goes down to an Earthquake after getting off a Bullet Punch. Espeon's Psychic finishes off the Fearsome Dragon, which then brings in Lapras, so Espeon sets up a Light Screen. A Hydro Pump then does pathetic damage as we set up a Reflect just in case. Another Hydro Pump leaves Espeon on above half, and after a couple more Psychics, Lapras goes down. Archeops gets off an Acrobatics before Espeon secures us the victory with a few more Psychics, and now we can move on to the 3D beauty, Diantha. Diantha is the first champion to use Mega Evolution, but before we can get to that, we have to take down her first Pokemon, Hawlucha, with Granbull's Play Rough. Tyrantrum then comes in and smacks up our pink pup with a head smash, leaving it below half, but due to recoil damage, Play Rough finishes off the prehistoric dino. We then do a bit of back and forth with Diantha using full restores and healing up Amoras before we can take it down with another Play Rough. Goodra is next in and it will surely take down Granbull due to it outspeeding and... oh, never mind. A Play Rough rids off yet another Pokemon on Diantha's team. Granbull's kill streak ends here though as a Shadow Sneak from Gourgeist finishes it off. Metagross can then take it out with a few Zen Headbutts, but not before it adds to Ghost typing with the move Trick or Treat. Diantha's Mega then comes in and well, obviously Mega Evolves. But before she can hit us, Metagross takes her low with a Bullet Punch and Mega Gardevoir hits back with a Shadow Ball. But somehow, we survive. Diantha then uses the full restore, and our first Bullet Punch must have been a low roll, as one more Bullet Punch eradicates her last Pokemon. Now let's head over to the Sunny Alola. Hal has an interesting team and starts off the battle with an Alolan Raichu who hits Umbreon with a Focus Blast, leaving it on 68 HP. A Dark Pulse then leaves Raichu in the red, and unfortunately I forgot to teach Umbreon Quick Attack, but my idiocy is rewarded as Raichu misses its next Focus Blast, meaning we can take the Electric Mouse down. Tauros is furious with Umbreon and crashes it down to 0 HP with a Double Edge. Tauros rages on and hits Hariyama hard with another Double Edge, but Hariyama takes its shot and smacks Tauros into the next McDonald burger with a close combat. Noivern then blows Hariyama off the stage with an Air Slash. Ampharos can take 2 Dragon Pulses whilst it sets up the rain and hits Noivern down to the red with a Thunder. Hal uses yet another full restore and Ampharos hits the Dragon Bat down to the yellow with a Dragon Pulse. We then exchange Dragon Pulses, but Ampharos is clearly stronger and Noivern goes down. Incineroar's Earthquake finishes off Ampharos, which means we can bring in Flygon, who shakes the kitty down to the red with an Earthquake. A Darkest Lariat then leaves Flygon on just below half, but one more Earthquake and down goes Kitty. Flygon is then face to face with this absolute abomination and tries to shake it off the stage with an Earthquake, but alas isn't successful and forced to an Ice Hammer. Espeon is able to finish off what Flygon couldn't, and in comes Hal's last Pokemon, Leafeon. A battle of the evolutions. A Leaf Blade leaves Espeon low and Espeon returns the favour with a Psychic. Hal then uses a full restore and a Dazzling Gleam gets Leafeon to around half before Espeon goes down. Leafeon is quaking in its boots as we send in Metagross. It hits a Leaf Blade and we counter back, destroying it with a Hyper Beam. Now the 3DS games are done, let's head back to Kanto. Is what I would say, but Wes technically doesn't have any Pokemon that can be legally used in these games, and therefore we lose the challenge. But out of interest, let's see how well he can do against the rest. Leon has some really strong Pokemon, but this is the first and only time we'll be facing a champion with 5 Pokemon. Aegislash is hit by 2 Dark Pulses which takes it down, but not before he can get off a Sacred Sword doing respectable damage. Dragapult is sent out and hits a Draco Meteor, leaving Umbreon low, but he can still manage to hit a Dark Pulse, doing a fair amount in return. A second Draco Meteor then finishes off Umbreon. So Skarmory tags in and tanks a Thunderbolt, and due to the secondary effect of Draco Meteor, it lowers the user's special attack by 2 stages each turn, so Thunderbolt doesn't do too much, meaning a Night Slash can finish off the Spooky Dragon. Mr. Rhyme boogies on in and barely survives a Steel Wing before confusing Skarmory with a Teeter Dance, but Skarmory's mind is clear and it hits another Steel Wing, taking down the weird clown. Inteleon is called out to avenge Mr. Rhyme and lowers Skarmory's offensive stats with Tearful Look. It then hits an Aerial Ace. A crit Snapshot then rusts Skarmory's wings and is sent back to the birdhouse. Metagross comes in and gets hit to around half by a Dark Pulse and then proceeds to miss a Hammer Arm. Another Dark Pulse then takes Metagross down to the red, but makes up for its previous miss by hammering the edgy lizard into the ground. Leon's ace is a Gigantamaxing Charizard, which obviously singes Metagross into a fridge magnet, but not before a Bullet Punch does some chip damage. Espeon is then able to tank a max Overgrow thanks to the light screen he set up. A Psychic then leaves Charizard on above half, it then hits a max Rock 4, leaving Espeon on above half as well. Charizard reforms back to its original state, now with its lowered stats, forced to one more Psychic, leaving only one more opponent. Geeta's Pokemon vary in type, but so do we. Her Espathra leads and hits a Dazzling Gleam before Umbreon counters back with a Dark Pulse, leaving the Ostrich in the red, which means a quick attack can finish Espathra off. With Go-Go in next, I predict a Bulk Up, so I go for Taunt, and my theory was right. So we switch into Pokehound, the Houndoom, who deserves all the praise for this video as he helped me with the guidance and support. So if you want to say a thanks to him, go over to his channel and leave him a nice comment and subscribe. Pokehound hits a Flamethrower nearly taking the Grassy Goat down and strikes back with a Play Rough. One more Flamethrower and the goat is singed and goes down. Avalugg feels the full force of global warming and melts to a Flamethrower as well. King Gambit is no better and his armor melts down to a soup can, which brings in Veluza, who gets one shot by a Dark Pulse, proving that Houndoom is a good boy. Geeta's final Pokemon is the Terastallizing Glamora, and we protect to see what she goes for, and it goes for an Earth Power. So we switch into Feraligatr, who takes 2 Terra Blasts before Feraligatr one-shots the rocky creature with a Waterfall, winning us the Gauntlet. I really enjoyed this video and would love for you guys to let me know who I should do this with next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.